is always, what have you guys done to our country? What have you guys done to our region? So yesterday I was watching another panel, and they were talking about India and China, and I thought, let me put those statistics out there. So China, for example, has the fastest growing consumer internet company. Anybody knows what it's called? It's called Bain, with TikTok. So effectively right now it's the fastest growing internet company. So China has the fastest growing internet company, consumer internet, as well as the payments company, Alipay and WePay. They're famous for that. India has pretty much a diversified set, but everything to do with SaaS. It's got a whole bunch of SaaS fast-growing companies, as well as payments. But we in the Middle East, we're also very famous. We're number one in what? Average revenue per customer. Pretty much, customers are, the output per customer in most of these goods is the highest. But then, our friends, not just here, but across the board, have also created two other very high numbers. The highest cost per ad word, where's the Google guys? The highest cost per ad word, and the highest cost per rental square foot. So this makes it pretty complicated. So we're gonna start the panel to basically understand how that's going to evolve. But one more item. In the whole e-commerce space, we all know it needs a lot of deep pockets, and we're scared to invest if we don't have the deep pockets. But guess what? Those deep pockets are coming again from Asia or from the US. Who's putting the money into those deep pockets? SoftBank. Where's the money coming from? Middle East. So I think this is kind of going to be an interesting discussion to see how we can make that turn onto ourselves. So welcome, panelists. I think I'm going to start with Hosam. This is going to be, you know what I'm going to ask you, right? It's going to be the Namshi valuation. Do I even need to explain it? So Namshi had a buyout, 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 1.5 years ago. A particular valuation was out, and this week at a new valuation, which appears to be a down round or a lower valuation. So I think it'll be interesting to hear your story.
It's actually fairly straightforward. So there was a control premium in the initial purchase, and that control premium no longer exists and no longer is necessary. So the valuation was predetermined at the initial transaction. So in terms of let's just look at the past year and a half. What has changed is the market has become a lot more competitive. E-commerce, specifically fashion e-commerce, has become the flavor of the period. I think the reason for that has largely been, as offline retail has started to suffer and slow down, a lot of the traditional retailers have started to look at online as kind of the remedy or the next best thing. So what we've seen is massive entry into this space. It has become overcrowded, and so the competitive side of things obviously has had an impact on international investors' appetite for this region. So that's an area I think you mentioned you wanted to discuss. So generally, yes, very competitive. What has happened with this competition is new entrants into e-commerce, into fashion e-commerce. All these guys have come in. They've put in a lot of money into setting up the companies, but also a lot of money into inventory. This inventory is not just going to start selling itself. We're not going to create new demand just because we have additional websites. So massive investment in inventory. This inventory is being heavily discounted as it hasn't really sold as per expectations. And so there's this constant race to the bottom that we're seeing in the market at the moment, especially in the segment of mid-market fashion e-commerce. So I think that's my general view of things. On the valuation itself, I don't think that's impacted it.
So Rashid's not afraid of that. Rashid's coming out and building buying quite a few e-commerce companies. Tell us a little bit about the diversified play you have.
We're involved in multiple e-commerce players. We're involved in luxury, and in mid-market, and obviously through Noon, that general merchandise, which is also more or less mid-market or value. So I think the idea is, as a family, we believe in e-commerce. I think e-commerce penetration is still pretty low compared to other markets. I think we're at 3-4% compared to other markets where they're at 10% of total retail. Some go up to 15%. So we are long-term investors in the e-commerce field, and I think our market is still new, as Hosam was saying. It's just been, I think, since Namshi started and the other e-commerce players started, not more than 5-6 years. So we feel like as a family or as investors, it's a duty for us to be involved in in what's interesting, to be involved in what consumers want tomorrow, what the next generation wants tomorrow. So other than believing in the monetary value or the value we can create and being part of this new digital economy, I think it's also a duty for us to be a part of it. We cannot. I think in some of the speeches you guys have seen for many of the large investors in e-commerce here, a lot of people want to kind of protect their turf, protect our market, which I think is basically the whole investment idea and the aggressiveness that you have seen our companies go into e-commerce. And that's not only in e-commerce. I mean, we want to get involved and are getting involved in other sectors of technology. So generally speaking, we believe in technology. We think that's the future. We like it. So I think that's why you see us very aggressive, very open to new ideas. And I think hopefully we think that there's a lot of talent building up thanks to all of the startups, the likes of Namshi or even the other companies that started in our industry. And I think it's a promising industry, and I'd really invite a lot of the other families also to seriously consider getting into this technology space.
So we have on one side a lot of competition, on the other side we have a willingness to accept that competition. Quite a lot of hype going on, Cyrille. Everywhere I go, whether I meet a retail company, a fashion company, or an e-commerce company, Cyrile's name pops up, so he knows pretty much everybody in this industry. I understand you wrote a nice report, I guess it's on our back. Is it hype? Let's talk about it.
I'd like to comment on some. So clearly, as we know, the penetration of e-commerce is lower. You mentioned, I agree, around 4% penetration. At the same time, and we see it at the back, sort of benchmark. There is a paradox, right? Because there is no consumers, and we did a benchmark of that as well. There is no consumers in the world that is spending as much time to discover new brands online than the Middle Eastern customers. In fact, the amount of time and also the percentage of brands that have been discovered online is twice as much in Saudi Arabia than it is in the UK. So at the beginning of the funnel, when it's about discovery, people are actually twice as more connected in the region than they are in the UK. And yet when it comes to purchasing, we are not even 25% of the UK is 16%, and we are like 4%. So we try to understand a little bit these paradox about why are we so connected and yet so little buying. And you made an important point. It's not about the basket size, because our basket size or revenue per user, sort of $150 per transaction, is one of the highest in the world. So it's not that if we spend less. It's not that few people buy. Actually, you can also see that at the back. In fact, about 70% of the GCC population has made an online purchase. So it's not that we never tried. No, we passed that stage. Everybody has tried. Everybody is buying things online. The real difference is we buy like twice a year, 2 to 3 times a year in the region, whereas in the UK and the US, it's more like 20 times a year. So it's really a game of frequency. And the reason why our frequency is low, I think, is all going to be addressed soon. So one, historically, was a lack of supply. Yes, Souk has 7 million SKUs, that's great, but Amazon has 500 million, so that's still quite a little. And as Hosam said, like recently, so much supply came into the market, but the flip side of that is that 2 years ago we had so little. So yes, Net-a-Porter and Noon and even everybody and Altair and everybody joined the party in the last 2 years. but really it happened in 2017, 2018. So the lack of supply was a big issue, to the point that 50% of our e-commerce market is coming from cross-border imports, and we all use shop and ship and all that Amazon.com, fulfillment. But that's not convenient for shopper, right? Because then it comes, you cannot return it, it will take a week to come, so, and that's 50% of the market. In the US, it's about 15, no, in the US it's less than 10, in Europe it's in the 15, in Latin America it's in the 20s, so 50% of all e-commerce transactions to be cross-border from outside the region, that's the highest in the world, and that's really an indication that how much lack of supply there was. Now that's changing very much. You see Amazon being more localized, you see Jolly Chic being more localized, and number of Chinese companies also sort of developing warehouses and all that not in the region. So the lack of supply was one. The poor experience of the last mile delivery is another one. We all experience that. Mr. Driver is still calling you. Where are you living? Oh yes, what's the closest landmark? There's the first street on the left, second traffic signal. So this whole delivery experience and return experience is not very good. And lastly, as we know, the payment issues. So those are some of the reasons that explain why the frequency is low. I think we can be fairly confident that the growth that we have had in the last few years, which is sort of 25-30% growth per annum in e-commerce, is actually continuing. Retail market, as we know, has slowed down a lot, but I think e-commerce has not slowed down, it's not accelerated either, but it remains growing at 20-30% per annum, to the point where we see that 5 years from now, penetration of e-commerce in this region will be kind of similar to the US today, so in the 12% as opposed to the 4%.
So what we're hearing is the big boys internationally have been selling here, and then of course they meet Mr. Saudi customs, or they meet the driver who goes everywhere. So what Karim did to Uber, i.e. very localized the organization, I'd love to hear from the panelists. We're not a producing region, we're a consuming region. We don't manufacture retail as much. So how are you localizing as much as we can, because the biggest cost is still the product?
I think, so your question is how do we compare to international players? Is that it?
How do you make it home rather than...
well, obviously with content, you can do a lot with content. Arabic first, all the time. To be honest, my Arabic language improved after I went to e-commerce. Really, I'm not joking. Also, type in Arabic. I was not used to type in Arabic. So I think Arabic language obviously is number one. Obviously, international players can translate and can do Arabic, but you have to be, I would say, super local in terms of the dialect and language you use. So in Saudi Arabia, they have a different lahja or different dialect. In the UAE is the same, in Kuwait is the same, and Egypt is the same. So I would say, I think in terms of localization, that's very, very important, very critical. Working with the right, I would say, brand ambassadors, influencers, trying to, I would say, other than that also, speed of delivery. When you are local, when you have your product here, you can deliver very fast, and I think that will give you a great advantage over ordering maybe from an international website, which could take 7 days or 10 days. But all in all, I think, look, product, there is no exclusivity in product. Everybody can get product from anywhere over time. You might have it cheaper, I might have it a bit more expensive, or vice versa.
So you mentioned something about influencers. I think given the valuations we've seen for companies like Boutiquat, etc. Yesterday I was with a Finnish gamer, and the Finnish gamer, quite known in his space, had about, say, 10,000 followers on his Twitter page. And then he said, look at these 17-year-old Saudi guys who just started, and within like minutes they have 25,000 followers, etc., given the kind of influencer space. And this is becoming another high cost of actually living here. Can you share some ideas on where this is going to go?
It's high cost, but also declining returns. Influencers had influence a few years ago when we first started. And just due to the oversaturation of the market right now, their impact has definitely come down. So I think it just has become an additional advertising channel for us. It's something that we have to have, just like Facebook and Google and Instagram, and so on. But they definitely have an impact. That impact has come down over time. The cost has not. Right? So in terms of efficiency, it's not as efficient a channel as it has been. So some of the, you talk about these influencers and what they get paid. I mean, we pay some influencers a monthly salary of about 200 to 250,000 dirhams. Right? A monthly salary for doing 3-4 posts. And that's one company paying one influencer. So just extend that to how many companies they work with. Some of these influencers are advertising for 2 competing brands in the same day. So there's very little loyalty. I think that the impact that they have to the consumer has declined because the consumer sees that lack of loyalty and they see that it is just an advertising channel. But yeah, it's a necessary evil, if you will.
I comment on that. I still think that when I look at the e-commerce company, those that are very successful, like Namshi, versus those that are less successful, I still feel that the ones that are successful have 3 things in common. They focus on Saudi Arabia first, and Noon is a great example of that. They have great people, that's number 2, and number 3, they're still very good at social media marketing. Either with different type of influencers, sometimes the influencers of yesterday and the one of tomorrow might be different. But I think the model built around influencers, think about boutique, of course, but also something smaller like Iwa in eye care is a great example of how a very small company ramped up very, very quickly on e-commerce, leveraging these influencers. So I would not sort of cross them off.
So I wouldn't, but I think what influencers have created is it has become very easy to scale very quickly, but then that scale disappears as soon as that influencer kind of push or influencer support disappears, right? So, when we were starting up, we had to build a brand. We had to build our own brand and gain customers through our own brand, and influencers were kind of this scaling mechanism, but it was very spiky. And I think what we're seeing right now I won't call examples, but there are companies that come in, they'll use an influencer, they'll see a massive spike in sales one night, they won't use that influencer again, or they'll have a lull from influencers for a week, and that kind of scale disappears immediately. Right? So they're not building that loyalty. I think that brand kind of awareness and importance is not built through influencers. That's our personal view.
So most of the people in the room are investors, and investors are always saying, at some point we need to see profitability, we need to see unit economics work, and the promise from most e-commerce companies is it's coming, just tomorrow and the year after. How do we make that unit economics come through today? Especially since, I'll give you the insurance example, from what I've seen, they're fighting for each other's names on the AdWords space. They're taking each other's names. So, the cost is going up because they're just playing each other. So how do we prevent that price war on the AdWords, price war on the promotions, price war in the way you acquire the customers?
First of all, I think, in terms of when talking about profitability, I would focus more on shipping costs than Google AdWords. Because to be honest, I think, with all my respect to Google, I think all the e-commerce companies are investing less and less in AdWords and looking at other channels. Especially since, I would say, mobile apps get 60% maybe of the business of any e-commerce player, including Namshi or the other players. So I think shipping costs is what I would focus on, and not price war on Google AdWords. That maybe is good for ego if your name is higher than somebody else, but in my opinion, I think what we've seen in the market is that there are other more efficient channels. I agree that influencer efficiency has gone down. I think because when e-commerce just started, it was almost like a honeymoon period, where it was just amazing, the spikes, as Hosam was saying. And now I think we're back to reality, so we're a bit surprised about efficiency going down for influencer market. But I think shipping cost is the largest item and the most expensive thing that e-commerce players do. So I think the answer is, I think once businesses scale, maybe since we have a lot of borders between the countries that we work with, we would have to have local inventory. So now, for example, Noon has a warehouse in Saudi Arabia. Everything in Saudi is in Saudi. Same for Egypt, which was launched recently. Everything is in Egypt. So everything is local. Shipping cost is much lower. And I would say the end goal of profitability is much more realistic than having to do a lot of cross-border in the beginning, which is a challenge for fashion, because I would say splitting inventory between two countries is very, very difficult. Unless you have a lot of scale in one country and you want to have local inventory, for example, in Saudi, local in UAE. But I think that's a question that each company has to make a decision. But I would focus on shipping costs more, enhancing profitability rather than price war and others.
So, Hosam, operational efficiency, as described, has been obviously a key game. In this market, in most e-commerce markets, you have 2 or 3 big players, as per your report, Cyrille, that control more than 50-60% of the market. Whereas here, it's a pretty fragmented space, especially in the fashion space. You've somehow kept your operational costs effective. So 2 questions for the whole panel. One is, how do you manage to do that in internal versus external? And number 2, shouldn't we be consolidating and partnering and collaborating more?
So I'll answer question 2 first. The short answer is yes. I think there should be a lot more collaboration and consolidation. I think we will probably see that in the coming year or 2. On question number 1, so how we achieved operational efficiency, I think it was, I would say 2 parts luck, 1 part design. We started at a time where there wasn't much in the market, there wasn't any competition. We came in at a time where the market was looking for change. I think the consumer was looking for change, and so we came in, we provided a very convenient product, and we were able to distribute that very quickly, in the sense that apps were new, app downloads costs were very, very cheap. We scaled that up very quickly. We had very limited funding, and that limited funding kind of instilled discipline in the business, right? So at a very early stage, while we had a very notoriously aggressive investor in Rocket, we had to kind of manage expectations in the sense that to say, we need to focus on the unit economics. We have a limited amount of funding right now, so how do we achieve unit economics? And the best way to do that is really to work on your product and make sure that your product is top-notch, from understanding your assortment, what does the customer want to buy, and not overbuying in order to have to discount, building the right kind of experience in your on your front end, on the apps and so on, but also on the back end when you deliver to the customer, and get that right. So I think there was that little bit of luck where we came in at the right time. But the discipline was extremely important to ensure that we were managing costs at a very early stage of the business. So it was a very lean structure in terms of the number of people. For the first 3 years, we were fairly flat in terms of headcount. We focused on buying assortment very, very slowly. So we weren't scaling up assortment to get to a certain scale overnight. It just wasn't going to work. So we bought assortment as to just be sufficient to cover the sales of that period that we were in. And we were chasing assortment as we were going, rather than all the way. Yeah.
On the consolidation from the 2 of you, Rashid, you gonna buy any more?
I think, are you talking about e-commerce or other industries?
Well, both e-commerce, within the fashion and e-commerce.
I think, in my humble opinion, I think, for example, e-commerce, which is something new. In the beginning, there are a lot of players that start, and then over time, some people make it, some people don't. Large players come from abroad and make the local players think twice, should I continue or not? Local retailers wake up and start building their own platforms. So I think there are a lot of different variables which, by nature just automatically leads to consolidation, people closing down. So I think consolidation is important, and as you said, I think we're 30% for the top 2 players. So I think this 30% is going to go very fast, up to 60%. And yeah, I think consolidation is good. I I think it gives the opportunity for entrepreneurs to make money and start other businesses. Gives people incentives, other people who hear about these exits to at least start new ideas, attract talent here, which is, I think, all good for the ecosystem and community.
So we're going to address two more topics. One topic is on the Chinese attacking from the low end, where Rashid
and the consolidation. To me, and the profitability. To me, I think we are in a typical nascent stage of the industry. We are only 4%. We've seen it all over the world. At that point in time of level of development of the market, you always have a high fragmentation. And frankly, it's possible that the fragmentation increase a little bit before we get into a consolidation, just because all the brick and mortar are now launching their e-commerce and sort of ramping up. Nonetheless, what we see in every single market is as the level of penetration increase, gradually sort of people start buying each other, some people go bankrupt as well. And down the line, and India is a great example of that, down the line, you have one or two players that is 40% of the market, together 40-50% of the market. Those are typically the two generalist marketplaces, so say Amazon and Noon for the region. And then you have kind of 50 to 60% of the market, which is not the two generalists, which are typically more specialists. And there are categories like fashion, where the generalists are typically not that strong. Amazon share in fashion is typically between 10 to 15%. So, and then those are more category led by specialists. Because if I'm a fan on biking, I'm not going to buy my bike on Amazon because that's going to be boring for me. I'm going to buy my bike, in that specialized shop. And the same is true for fashion. And so those specialists, I think, have a kind of a great opportunity, which is to inspire people about, help them discover what they want to buy. Because once they know what they want to buy, then Amazon is just great to buy it. But, many times they don't know what they buy, and that's the play of the specialists. And I think, in fashion in particular, those have quite a good potential. So we may see some consolidation in the specialists as well. Now, both the growth of the market from 4% to 12%, the consolidation of the market should, on both counts, help the unique economics for both the generalists and the specialists.
I think that's fair. We have a lot of, let's say, family offices in the audience. And the families behind them are always questioning the traditional model versus the digital model. On the panel, we have a digital native startup. We have one that's come, perhaps, Rashid, if you excuse me, I'll say you've come more from a traditional into the digital, and we have an advisor who sits in the middle, trying to get the two to work. It's very difficult for a traditional model which has a hierarchy, which has a certain way of doing business, which is paying MR malls a certain amount of money, etc., or Majid Al-Fateh, to think digital, to act digital, and vice versa for the digitally native to go omni-channel and leverage those channels. So for the audience, especially for those who have to think about the future world, where it's going to be completely disruptive, any advice?
I think the customer is online, therefore these traditional players need to have a presence online. It's as simple as that. Now, what that presence looks like will differ from depending on who that party is. I would say my kind of word of caution would be just set your expectations right. I don't think that going online, having a website means having revenues and not burning cash. It is a difficult business. It's a very, very complex industry. And go in, understand what your customer wants, and the customer needs to have access to the product, needs to discover the product, and probably, to a certain extent, also acquire the product. But what that really looks like will probably differ from party to party.
I think, in my opinion, whether it's in e-commerce or other industries, because of all this disruption that's happening, I think all the family offices or traditional businesses I think it will be very difficult for them to change their mindset. But they should keep in mind that all these startups, whatever traditional businesses are doing, they should change, they should do it faster and cheaper. Very simple. Because that's how startups, just like someone just mentioned, they had limited funding, limited time, digital, and we need 2 years to do it. By that time, it's too late. So I would say just speed and efficiency in terms of cost. We have a lot of great engineers in India or in other countries here close to us who are very smart and very capable. So I would say invest smartly, but you have to be very, very fast. Because all these startups, they don't sleep at night.
So one of the biggest issues of speed is the rate to make decisions, and the rate to make decisions depends on your bureaucracy to say, hey, dear father, dear grandfather, dear big man.
Yeah, but I think, to be honest, I think traditional families, they have kids, smart kids who maybe, want to do their own things, and they are being supported by the family. So I think there is a lot of potential there. And they can start their own businesses by themselves with the support of the family.
So give your money to your children already.
So, on the point of speed, it's pretty clear, right? So today, we estimated that 95% of the market share in e-commerce in the region is in the hand of pure play. So omnichannel being only 5%. So all the omnichannel, all the retailers we've known for 30 years. Now, as this slide shows, they are definitely waking up. And for me, I think in the future, long future maybe, at the end, omnichannel is what customers prefer. It's great when you can buy online and return it to the store. You are in the store, they don't have it, no problem. You go on the iPad, you buy it, and they will deliver it to you in your home in 2 hours. Just omnichannel is the best solution for the customers. We see pure play like Amazon sort of venturing into the omnichannel from the pure play angle toward the stores. And obviously we see all the retailers in the US and in Europe and all over the world venturing online. I think this is the winning model down the line. Those that remain pure play, they may have a good ride for while the omnichannel wakes up, but the day they wakes up and leverage, see it even in electronics. That's the best example. Electronics in the US, the most disruptive segment in the entire e-commerce industry. Yet, Best Buy is surviving. Best Buy is actually growing. Last year in electronics, Best Buy grew faster than Amazon. Why? Because they could leverage the network of stores to provide a customer experience. That is great. So I believe really that omnichannel is the model of tomorrow. One of the big challenges, so indeed time is difficult for retailers because it's a huge transformation. And among all the transformation, we think a lot about information system, but people is often the key challenge. You have to make sure that the people in the store, like happened to me when I buy my Nike shop in Los Angeles, the saleswoman said, we don't have it right now in the store, but don't worry, it will be delivered to your hotel in 1 hour. She was not scared of e-commerce. She didn't think that e-commerce would reduce her incentive plan. Too often in the region, we start the e-commerce transformation not talking to the staff, so they feel insecure. Maybe the sales that goes online is the sales that don't go in my bonus. Therefore, I will tell customers not to go online. So we have to really think that omnichannel transformation, I think, starts with the people transformation.
So now we're going to get a fairly complicated discussion on protection. In China and India, the walls were up until the companies got big enough to actually defend themselves. And those are big markets and they have this scale. In the Middle East, I think you've got, whether it's a Jolly Chic or an Amazon or whatever, ASOS coming down the line at a particular place, you can localize as much as you want. That's one side of the principal agent problem. The other side is the brands. We were protected by agency agreements, but now the brands asking for joint ventures, they're asking to define where it goes. That's easy when you have only 2 malls to go to, but suddenly when there's, I'm talking UAE or Dubai, when there's more than 2 malls and the competition at the retail space gets a bit more complicated, that's principal agent problems going to change. And then on the third front, of course, the sellers have to ask the landlord for a better price, have to ask the brands for better room to negotiate against the grey market, and have to fight the Jolly Chics of the world. So how much protection do you need?
In my opinion, I think, look, any local retailer, whether it's online or offline, has to be treated fairly. So I do not think it's fair if there is the same Nike shoe that you were referring to can be delivered from somewhere at a cheaper price. That will obviously, I think, hurt the local economy, hurt local investors in retail here. So whether it's customs or other charges, whatever you want to call it, I think there has to be a fair playground, similar to what India did recently, and not allowing retailers to do, or online, like Amazon, Flipkart, basically, to do retail, so they can only do marketplace. And that, that will hopefully protect the local retailers.
I think my concern with that is, I just don't see it as sustainable, right? It's, the consumer who wants that cheaper Nike shoe is going to find a way to get that cheaper Nike shoe. I think the local retailers historically have just had this kind of monopolistic advantage, this exclusivity advantage. The Middle East was this kind of black box that no international retailers wanted to come into on their own, and so they needed these partnerships and these agreements. And the reality of the matter, e-commerce kind of breaks those walls down, and now the consumer has the power to choose and select. And so, yes, unfortunately, the local retailers are being impacted, right? A Nike shoe over here is 40% more expensive than a Nike shoe in the US. And is that sustainable, and is that the right thing for the consumer? The problem is, it isn't, right? And this is the kind of transition that we're seeing at this stage of time, where local retailers are trying to keep their prices up to historical levels, and they're not able to. So what do they end up doing? They either lose sales and lose market share, or they discount. But this discounting solution is very short term. There needs to be a kind of structural shift of what are the costs that go in, and I think for offline retailers, the costs are quite high right now, and so there needs to be a reevaluation there. And then the margin structure, that these high margins that local retailers were able to command in the past, I think that's probably a very legacy and historical, and I don't think it will continue to be the way.
I think bringing down retail prices, I agree with Hosam, things are too expensive here. But what I was referring to is sometimes you have unfair competition from abroad, which basically they don't mind losing money for 10 years and killing everybody else in the market. So I think there has to be some sort of protection, but obviously I agree, prices here, I think historically we've had this advantage. Nobody can get a Nike shoe. You can only go to one guy to get a Nike shoe. So obviously it's going to be 40% more expensive.
I agree with you. I think on the Chinese point specifically, there needs to be protection from product dumping. And this is what's happening by the Chinese at the moment. It is very low quality product that is being thrown into the market at throwaway prices. And there is a consumer that probably lacks access to that product, and then they're able to make an entry. What we're seeing though is the consumer is also becoming a lot more educated. So that low price, low quality product, there's very little loyalty to it. There's very little kind of repeat purchase from that perspective. So fresh off the press, what we're seeing in Saudi right now, where Jolly Sheik and some of the other Chinese have come in and taken up a huge amount of space in warehousing space, that's being retracted at the moment. I think they're starting to feel the pinch of what does a low quality product mean for the consumer. It means it's very, very difficult to get that consumer back.
So if I have a conversation with the government at the moment on all of these topics, and multiple GCC government, frankly, I think what everybody sees is that today it's a bit the world on its head. So you have two types of e-commerce players. You have those like Noon and Namshi that are here, that have jobs here, that have warehouse here, that have offices, everything that makes a big contribution to the economy. And we have cross-border people that are in China or in the US, have no jobs here, and purely sell in the region of the cross-border places. Now, obviously, the Namshi of the world is adding value to the economy, the other one is not. And yet, the whole customs system and trade facilitation is actually giving advantage to the guy that adds no value to the economy. He doesn't have to pay duty because duty threshold is at 1,000 dirhams. The other one that imports and have facility here, they have to pay the import duty. 5% advantage to the guy that has no value to the economy. And then all the declaration fees, all the things meant that when you're cross-border and you're using courier, you have all the privilege of the courier and you bypass all the complexity of customs. So this is going to change. you're gonna see a regulatory environment that's gonna shift from providing incentive to companies to operate on a cross-border basis to provide incentive for companies to invest in the region, create the region. Now, there may be local companies, there may be foreign companies, but they will invest in the region, create jobs in the region. And and that's the right move. That's the same move that most other countries have gone.
So time is being called, but since it's a VC and technology heavy, we always like to hear what the next big thing is. I'll give a little small story, and then maybe what's the next technology big thing that is in Europe. I remember 2 years ago, I had invested in a Croatian company that looked into an IT store. It had cameras that were observing what's happening with some machine learning to figure out what's the new thing. What was funny was the throughput through that store. Every person walking in, 32% of the time would buy something. So that's an easy statistic. What they discovered was when women walk in and their one hand is occupied, 32 went down to, let's say, 29. But when men walk in and one hand is occupied, it went down to below 10%. So these are interesting statistics that technology is driving. Be interesting to know, in your future world, are there new technologies that you're planning to invest, secret or not, that might help us move forward?
Well, on a personal level, I like sports technology. So I have a few projects that I'm working on. And the good thing about sports technology is that from day one you're global. Everybody loves sports. So this is what I'm doing.
That Bain website is
not in e-commerce, other stuff. And to be honest, what I think is a good opportunity now in our region is basically digital wallets, but offline. So we should have PayTM here. Similar, not PayTM, something similar to PayTM. So I think this is the next thing. We do a lot of cash transactions, and I think this will change over time. Obviously, there's so many digital wallets, it's very competitive, but I think this is a big opportunity.
So payments in sports.
Not much to say there. Where we like to take the focus is really on basics, and the basic is basically provide an exceptional customer experience. There's a lot of technologies that come into play over there. So anything that impacts the experience, makes the purchasing process easier for the customer, is nice. But at the end of the day, how do you actually interact with the customer and deliver a product as quickly as possible, as efficiently as possible is what works for us.
Yeah, I would say I agree that the peer-to-peer transfer of money, the kind of WeChat model, I think has tremendous potential here to resolve the cash and delivery issues. The second one I would say is something like Gate here in Turkey. I found it's phenomenal how using a franchise model to resolve the last mile delivery challenge in urban cities and making money in the process, I think is something to watch.
So thank you very much, and a message, I guess, a clear message to all the families and the LPs is you have to watch out for the big things that are coming. You have to disrupt yourself, you have to disrupt your families, and I'm sure MEVP is going to guide you through that, through their portfolio companies. Thank you very much.